was a young boy, my family lived in a quaint little house on the outskirts of town. It was a place filled with warm memories and laughter during the day, but as night fell, a sinister ambiance enveloped the surroundings. Our small town was known for its share of spooky tales, and our house had its own chilling history. One evening, as the moon hung low in the sky, my parents decided to go out for a dinner date, leaving me in the care of my older sister, Emily. I was excited about having a night of fun with her, oblivious to the unease that crept into her eyes when our parents mentioned their destination, an old abandoned mansion on the hill. Before they left, my parents instructed Emily to keep the doors locked and the curtains drawn, warning her to never open the door for anyone. She nodded confidently, dismissing their concerns as mere superstitions. They bid us goodbye, and the sound of their car gradually faded into the distance, leaving us alone in the dimly lit living room. As the night deepened, Emily decided to share ghost stories to entertain us. The stories were enough to send shivers down my spine, and I found myself glancing around, half expecting to see eerie shadows lurking in every corner. Yet I enjoyed the thrill of being frightened as long as I was safely tucked inside the house. Suddenly, a faint tapping sound echoed from the hallway. I froze, and Emily's eyes widened with alarm. We exchanged nervous glances before she reassured me that it was probably just the wind rattling the old windows. But the tapping persisted, growing louder and more insistent with each passing moment. Emily stood up, her body tense, and slowly made her way to the hallway. I followed, clutching onto the hem of her shirt for reassurance. As we reached the end of the hall, the tapping seemed to originate from the front door. My sister's breath hitched, realizing that someone or something was trying to get in. "Who's there?" Emily called out, her voice quivering with a mix of fear and bravado. The tapping ceased for a moment, and a heavy silence enveloped the house. Just when we thought it was over, a voice whispered from the other side of the door, barely audible, but unmistakably chilling. "Let me in." Emily hesitated, torn between her instinct to protect me and her curiosity about the mysterious visitor. The voice grew more insistent, and it seemed to come from different directions simultaneously, as if it were echoing through the walls. "Let me in. I won't hurt you." Fear began to grip me, and I tugged at Emily's arm, begging her to ignore the voice and return to the safety of the living room. But her curiosity got the better of her, and she reached for the doorknob, her hand trembling. Before she could turn the knob, the room suddenly plunged into darkness. The lights flickered and died, leaving us in pitch blackness. Panic surged through me, and I clung to Emily, whimpering in fear. In the darkness, we could still hear the voice, now more sinister than before. "I said, let me in." The tapping resumed, but this time it seemed to come from all directions, as if a legion of unseen entities surrounded us. I felt the cold breeze sweep through the house, carrying with it a bone-chilling presence. Emily fumbled for her phone, using its dim light to guide us back to the living room. We huddled together on the couch, surrounded by an unsettling silence. The voice had stopped, but an oppressive aura lingered, suffocating us. Suddenly the windows rattled and the house seemed to tremble. A shadowy figure materialized outside, pressed against the glass, its eyes glowing with an unnatural light. Emily stifled a scream, pulling me closer to shield me from the terrifying sight. The figure traced a bony finger along the window pane, leaving a trail of frost in its wake. It wore a tattered cloak that billowed in the wind, and its face was a grotesque mask of decay. It was no longer a mere voice, it was a nightmare come to life. In a last-ditch effort to protect us, Emily dialed our parents' number, but the call wouldn't connect. The mansion on the hill had a malevolent power that severed us from the outside world. With tears in her eyes, Emily whispered that we needed to leave the house immediately. We tiptoed through the darkness, careful not to make a sound, but the tapping followed us, growing louder and more incessant. As we reached the front door, the tapping became a deafening roar, and the door shook violently in its frame. Emily threw it open, and we fled into the night, not daring to look back. The night air was icy, and we ran through the winding streets until we reached the town center. Only then did we dare to glance back at our house. The mansion on the hill loomed in the distance, its windows glowing with an otherworldly light. The tapping ceased, but the memory of that night would haunt us forever. I work at MOE'S Diner. My job requires me to leave late in the middle of the night, long after the last customers have gone home. MOE'S Diner has been around for decades, and while the place has its charm during the day, it takes on an eerie atmosphere at night. One particularly cold and stormy night, the clock struck midnight, and it was time for me to head home. As I stepped out of the diner, the rain poured down in sheets, and the wind howled through the deserted streets. I pulled my coat tight around me and hurried towards my car, parked a few yards away from the entrance. Feeling a sense of relief as I got into my car, I started the engine and began to drive away from the diner. The rain made it difficult to see, and the windshield wipers struggled to keep up with the downpour. I decided to take the longer road home, hoping the main roads would be less affected by the weather. As I drove through the quiet streets, a feeling of unease washed over me. The rain seemed to muffle all sounds, making the night unnaturally silent. I glanced in my rearview mirror and saw nothing but darkness behind me. I shook off the feeling and tried to focus on the road ahead. Suddenly, I noticed a figure up ahead on the sidewalk. As I got closer, I saw it was a man, hunched over and drenched from the rain. He was waving his arms, signaling for help. Concerned, I slowed down and rolled down my window just a crack. "Hey, are you okay?" I asked, my voice barely audible over the storm. The man looked up at me, his face obscured by the darkness and rain. "Please, you have to help me. My car broke down and I don't have a phone to call for assistance." Despite feeling uneasy, I couldn't leave the man stranded in the pouring rain. "Hop in," I said reluctantly, unlocking the car doors. He climbed into the back seat, and I couldn't help but notice his odd demeanor. He seemed jittery and nervous, constantly glancing around as if he were being followed. The rain continued to pound on the roof of the car, creating an atmosphere of tension and fear. I decided to take him to the nearest gas station to call for help, but as I turned onto a deserted road, the feeling of unease grew stronger. The man in the back seat shifted uncomfortably, muttering to himself. My heart raced as I tried to focus on driving. Suddenly, a loud noise echoed through the car, making me jump. It was a metallic clinking sound, as if something heavy had fallen. I stole a quick glance at the rearview mirror, and my blood ran cold. The man had a large knife in his hand, and he was staring at me with a sinister grin. "Don't be afraid," he said in a chilling voice. "I just want to have a little fun." Terrified, I gripped the steering wheel tightly and tried to remain calm. "Look, whatever you want, you can have it. Just please don't hurt me." He laughed darkly. "Oh, I'll have everything I want, starting with your life." With adrenaline pumping through my veins, I swerved the car, attempting to throw him off balance. The rain-slicked road made it difficult to maintain control, but I had to do something. The man lunged at me, and the knife grazed my arm, drawing blood. I let out a cry of pain and desperation as I continued to struggle with the wheel. Miraculously, the car skidded to a stop near a patch of woods, and I seized the opportunity. I opened the car door and bolted into the darkness of the forest, running as fast as I could. The man pursued me, his menacing laughter echoing behind me. I stumbled through the underbrush, branches clawing at my face, and the rain still pouring down relentlessly. I knew I couldn't keep running forever, but I refused to give up. As I pushed myself to the limit, I saw a faint light up ahead. It was a small cabin hidden deep within the woods. Hoping for help, I ran towards it and pounded on the door, praying someone would answer. To my relief, the door swung open, revealing an elderly couple inside. They gasped at the sight of me, drenched in rain and blood. But before I could explain, the man from the car emerged from the darkness. "There you are," he sneered, the knife still in hand. The elderly couple looked at the man with a mix of fear and anger. "You're not welcome here," the old man said sternly. "Leave this place at once." The man hesitated for a moment, seemingly taken aback by the couple's defiance. In that brief window of opportunity, I made a desperate decision. I ran past the old couple and towards the back of the cabin where a rusty shovel leaned against the wall. With the shovel in hand, I turned to face the man. The rain had turned the forest floor into a muddy mess, and I hoped that would work to my advantage. I swung the shovel with all my strength, catching him off guard and sending him sprawling into the mud. The elderly couple quickly came to my aid, and together we disarmed the man. They called the police, and within minutes, the authorities arrived to take him away. As the adrenaline subsided, I realized how close I had come to tragedy. The elderly couple had saved my life, and I couldn't help but wonder if they were more than ordinary people. Perhaps they were guardians of the woods, protectors of those who sought refuge in their domain. From that night on, I never left Moe's Diner alone. The horrors of that rainy night haunted my dreams, and the eerie feeling in the diner only intensified. I learned that darkness held secrets, and some nightmares were very real. The memory of the man with the knife would forever remind me that evil lurked in unexpected places, waiting to strike when least expected.